Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat pranams. Jai Srila Prabhupada. I hope you are all well. Welcome to this next talk in our series of talks from our Bhagavad Gita as it is Bitesize Talks series, where every now and then, usually every month, we get together to read a verse and a purport from the Bhagavad Gita as it is together. And this episode or this edition actually marks the 18th time we have got together. So we've been doing this for 18 months, a year and a half, and which means today's reading will come from chapter 18 from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And then next time we will start again. Not with exactly the same verse from chapter 1, but we will go with a different verse from chapter 1. And we will keep going and going and going and going. And hopefully we'll still be doing this in several years' time. Bhagavad Gita as it is Bite-Sized Talks series. Some of you will be watching this on YouTube and some of you will be watching this on Facebook. If you're watching it on YouTube, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Hare Krishna Project YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on Facebook and you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. Through those two means you can keep updated about what we're doing here at the Hare Krishna Project. Those of you who are avid followers of the Hare Krishna Project know that we keep ourselves busy. There's always something happening here. You'll also know that here at the Hare Krishna Project, we have a preference, a very strong preference for only reading from Srila Prabhupada's original 1972 Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's the last authorized version of the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Prabhupada himself. So it's the kind of last one that he personally sanctioned or authorized or gave the go-ahead for. So we really feel it's important. That's our way of honoring Prabhupada by reading from the 1972 Bhagavad Gita. And you'll also know, if you don't know already, that we do sell copies of the original 1972 Bhagavad Gita, and we distribute them freely to schools as well. Check out our website, click on the shop button if you want to buy a book. And if you are also, a bit of a tangent here, if you're linked with a school, if you're a teacher or your child goes to a certain primary school or secondary school, get in touch. And we would love to make sure that that school has a free copy, at least one free copy, maybe more, free copy of the original 1972 Bhagavad Gita as it is. This is a copy I've got with me today of the original 1972 Bhagavad Gita as it is. It just looks so beautiful, doesn't it? The front cover, the glossiness. I have a small version with me today, the pocket size rather than the large print size, because I'm traveling. And yes, you've probably picked up by now, I'm regularly traveling. I travel around the country for work and for seva, and I just happen not to have a large copy with me at the moment. But I've always got a Bhagavad Gita somewhere, either in my van or in my bag or somewhere. So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita chapter 18 today. And this is another of my favorite verses. I'll be honest, I've been quite biased through this whole 18-month series. I often choose a verse that I like because I'm quite enthusiastic about reading about it and explaining it. But I need to get into the habit of reading verses that I'm not so familiar with because it's a great learning experience for me as well. Okay, today we're reading from chapter 18, verse 66. Now, one of the things I quite like as a sociologist and a historian about when we move further up the Bhagavad Gita into kind of the later chapters is I start to think of years in history or 1866. You know, Bhagavad Gita 1866. What was happening in 1866? Anything significant? Well, for any historians out there, I will get onto the reading in a moment. For any historians out there, in 1866, Queen Victoria was on the throne. She was about to mark her 30 years on the throne here in the UK. It was the end of the Austro-Prussian War, where Prussia won. And also 1866, for our American friends, was the year that the US Civil Rights Act was passed by the US Congress. So for anyone who needs a funny way of remembering Bhagavad Gita verses, you can think of years in history, quite possibly. Okay, so what's going to happen Now, as I'm going to read the verse, and I'm then going to read Srila Prabhupada's purport. I I often think, do I need to do this every time? And then I conclude that I do. For any complete newcomers, the Bhagavad Gita is a discourse. It's a conversation between Lord Krishna, God, himself, and Arjuna, his friend and disciple. And they're having a conversation on a battlefield of all places, where Arjuna is about to do battle, but he's having second thoughts, he's worrying, he's deliberating, and he and Krishna are having this conversation about dharma, about duty, and about a whole load of other stuff. And Arjuna, 5,000 years ago, in this world, was asking all the types of questions that we still ask today, such as, what is the meaning of life? What happens when I physically die? Well, tell me about my relationship with you. Is there heaven and hell? I mean, he doesn't actually ask that question, but all those kind of metaphysical questions that so many seekers still have today, which is why the Bhagavad Gita, as it is still completely relevant, despite it being 5,000 years since it was first spoken. Okay, so some of you might, your ears might have twigged when I mentioned 1866, because it's quite a well-known verse. So, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. And Srila Prabhupada's purport or commentary on this verse goes like this. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge, processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Supersoul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 8th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that not even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Sri Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities. With faith and love, one should surrender unto him. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order. But if by executing his duty, one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfection or stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances, Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna as the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes free from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory process by cultivation of knowledge. meditation, in the mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be free from all sinful reaction. One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. Omnipotent vision of Krishna. All attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision. Some of them are attracted to the supreme feature, the supersoul feature. But one who is attracted to the personal feature of the supreme personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted to the supreme personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge. And thus it is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Parama yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics, and devotees are called transcendentalists. But one who is a pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here, ma sucha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender unto Krishna. But such worry is useless. When Prabhupada came to the West in the 1960s, and throughout his entire earthly ministry, it's a bit of a Christian term, his earthly ministry over 12 years, and throughout all of his writings, throughout all of his books, and throughout all of his lectures, and throughout all of his talks, and throughout all of his letters, Prabhupada is talking about Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is not talking about religion consciousness or society consciousness. He's talking about Krishna consciousness. How we can be conscious as much as possible all the time of Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. How we can be conscious of God all the time, constantly, 24/7. Prabhupada is not coming to the West. Prabhupada is not speaking about, Prabhupada is not writing about religion consciousness. Many people won't know that the word religion is from a Latin word, religio, which literally means to bind. It means to bind. And that can be interpreted in many ways. But how we define a religion today is often a group of people that are bound together by a shared set of teachings, values, religious beliefs, customs, festivals, traditions. This verse, Krishna is concluding towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, is that we should abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Srila Prabhupada didn't come to the West to promote Hinduism. Some people think that he was. Prabhupada came to the West to promote Krishna consciousness, not to promote Hindu lifestyle, but to promote the teachings of the Vedic texts or the Vedic literatures. Those of you who have been around religion for a long time know that people get very attached to it. People get very attached to their religious identity. People get very attached to their religious denomination. People get very attached to serving their church. or serving their mosque, or serving their temple, or serving their synagogue. People get very attached to fundraising for their religious group. Many of you will know that my background was in Methodism, Methodist Christianity for the working classes back in the 1800s and 1900s, and probably still today as well. Yeah, the Methodist Church, I'm not singling out the Methodist Church because I still have a lot of fondness for Methodism, but the Methodist Church, like mostly all other churches, is focused on raising money for the church. I remember back in my teens when I helped to organize cake sales and jumble sales, and helped to raise money for the church and encourage people to become members of the church. And I remember towards the time I was about to leave the church and join the Hare Krishna movement, I remember having a conversation with a Christian once who said basically, yeah, the whole point of the Methodist Church, or our church, this applies to all churches, by the way, is that we want more members for our club. It is a club. And I remember feeling quite sad about that conversation because I remember thinking that that wasn't John Wesley's intention. John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church, just wanted to preach basic Christianity. He wanted to share the teachings of the Bible with ordinary, everyday people. He didn't want people to join the club in that sense. He wanted people to be saved. He wanted to save people from their sins so they would go to live eternally in heaven. It wasn't about people joining the club. So most of us will be familiar with this concept, will become attached to religion, to religious groups, religious identity. And if we know our Bhagavad Gita well, and if we know the teachings of Prabhupada well, all the identities that we have are temporary, and therefore they're in this life only. For some bizarre reason, I have appeared in this life as a white man from the southwest of England, from a kind of Protestant Anglican background that for some reason has taken interest in a philosophy from the East, with center slightly left of center political views. For some bizarre reason, these are the labels or the identities that I have in this life. But the next life, if I don't go back to the spiritual world or whatever, I'll appear as something else. All these identities are completely temporary, and we shouldn't get so attached to them. All of us, at some point in our Krishna conscious journeys, irrespective of whichever mat we've been in, whichever sangha we've been in, we become quite society conscious. We're promoting society consciousness. Join ISKCON and you will be saved. Join the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat mat and you will be saved. Join the Science of Identity Foundation and you will be saved. Join the Gopinath Gaudiya mat and you will be saved. That's not what the Vedic literature teaches. The Vedic literature teaches us to surrender to Krishna, not to surrender to an organization. Those organizations are okay. I'm not criticizing those organizations necessarily. I'm just saying we shouldn't surrender to them. Is that they are the be all and the end all, will be saved spiritually? No, we're all guilty at some point in our lives of being society conscious, and actually we should be Krishna conscious. The final part of Bhagavad Gita verse, Krishna says very simply, do not fear. He says, do not fear. And in the final part of Prabhupada's purport or commentary, Prabhupada says this, and I'm going to read again, and I'm going to talk a bit to it. The particular words used here, masucha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. A Christian friend of mine once explained to me many, many years ago, and I would say he's quite a conservative, Bible-based Christian. He says that actually if we fear anything in life, if we worry about anything in life, actually that's a sin. And I said, well, I've not thought of that before. If somebody worries about something, or if somebody fears something, why is that a sin? And he says that his response was that in the Bible, God says, I will not forsake you. I will not forget you. I will not abandon you. That is my promise to you. God is saying, according to the Judeo-Christian interpretation of things, that God doesn't forget us. God doesn't forsake us. God doesn't abandon us. And he always wants the best for us. So therefore, if we fear something, or if we worry about something, we have forgotten God. We have forgotten God. We have forgotten God's promise to us that he will never abandon us. Therefore, that's a sin. And Krishna is saying exactly the same in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says to Arjuna at the end of this verse 66 of chapter 18, do not fear. It's really clear, 3 words, do not fear. This is Lord Krishna's commitment to us, promise to us, a very clear statement to us that we should not fear. I know it's not easy, but we should be completely grounded in scripture or sastra. I know we all live busy lives, me included, but try as much as possible to read the Bhagavad Gita. If you can't do it every day, do it every other day. And if you can't do it every other day, commit a couple of hours every weekend just to reading from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam as much as you can. Learn from Krishna. Learn from what he's saying to us through the words of Sastra. Krishna consciousness is about being conscious of Krishna, not being attached to religions or religion or religious identity. Remember, Prabhupada teaches us that the essence of all religious traditions is the same: to serve God, to put God first, and then to serve others, to serve devotees, to treat all people with respect. So I'm just going to read Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66, 1866, again. Lord Krishna says to his dearmost friend Arjuna and disciple, and I believe he's saying it to us today as well: abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.